Hello and welcome to Pasta Chat number 5, again with pasta. So I think this is the second video of the 5 with pasta, so that's a horrendous strike rate really. But the question today is, what are the positive and negative impacts of weightlifting on my mental health? Now, in short, there are no negative impacts for me. Everything that's an issue in weightlifting is because any issue I have with weightlifting isn't because of weightlifting, it's because of me, essentially. So I would say that there is no issue with weightlifting. I'm the issue. But I think we'll talk about the good ones first. So the good things, it's been a constant. So in all honesty, at the lowest times of my life, or recently, as in the last 6 years since I've been lifting, weightlifting's always been there, and it's always been a release. It's always been an outlet for me when everything else is terrible. Now, it's helped with body image, self-esteem, confidence. It's my job now, like it's given me a job. It's given me an identity. It's huge, it's crazy. Well, obviously we all identify with the sport that we do and our passion essentially. But it's given me an identity, which is also a downside. But it has been really, really useful for me. So, obviously, another thing, the people as well. I should probably mention that. The people, some of the best people I've ever met in my life, have been from weightlifting. So it has been absolutely fantastic. It's made me feel, again, like I say, more confident, higher self-esteem. It's taught me a lot about life as well, and a lot of the skills that you learn in weightlifting transfer over to life. And just things like resilience, determination, consistency more than anything. Is there anything more annoying than seeing someone who you really want them to do well in life and then they just can't stay consistent with something and it causes a lot of trouble for them? And weightlifting I was consistent before because of my OCD, but this has been, and I was the same when I was doing track and field. This is just the new kind of lease of it. This is the new medium by which my obsession shows. Now, I think most people's answers would be the same for that. I think most people would say similar things. The people, the opportunities, the experiences, the life lessons, etc., etc., etc. I honestly think most people would say the same thing. In terms of the negatives, and like I said before, the negatives of weightlifting, to me, aren't because of weightlifting. It's just because of me reacting. And it's a sport where, it's obviously a very hard sport. It's a sport where you miss quite a lot, or not quite a lot necessarily, depending on how you train. But, by the way, I've been cooking some mint water, or tea, I guess. Most of that went down the sink, but that's okay. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. No, it's not bad at all. Thank you, Pascal, for getting me the mint. Very nice. It's not very... Wonderful. It's got like it's got a nice little twang to it. The negatives, I'm actually going to put some mint in there actually. The negatives, so things like, because of the nature of my, I guess perfectionism is the only way to say it, it's, if, not all the time, but if I'm having like a really bad time, I miss, or not even just miss to be honest, if I make a lift but it's a bit shit, I can get immediately depressed. because of it, because of that imperfection, and it can, when you're like, obviously some people here will know, true depression can be so exhausting and tiring that you literally just collapse essentially, and your body shuts down and you can't do anything. And that's why sometimes like I'll do something terrible in training and then suddenly feel like I'm dying, or that I need to get out of here, or that my energy just goes to the point where I can't do anything. So it's a tough one because people don't understand it, and people think sometimes you just kind of throw in a straw. But I'm kind of over that now. Like, obviously the first couple of years, that's all I was doing, was just throwing a straw. But now it's a little bit more like, because of the recent issues with the mental health, like still with the mental health issues, that's what it is at the moment. So that's one negative thing. It's like, whereas if I just, the good thing about when I was doing the 100 meters and when I was doing triple jump, you can just not measure or not time yourself. Yes, you know when you're feeling slow, but if I'm running down a field or down a track, I'm still giving maximum effort, but I don't need to know the time. So I can kind of trick myself into feeling good. Whereas with weightlifting, I can still give maximum effort, but I know what weight it is. So if I'm missing like 70% snatches, for example, I then feel terrible. Whereas even if I was running at 70% of my normal 100 meter speed, like I might not know, like I would know intuitively that it was worse, but I wouldn't know to the extent of which it was worse. And now people will say, oh, well, you could just use, the black CrossFit plates, but you know what's on the bar. Like I think if people don't know what's on the bar, they haven't probably been in the sport long enough to just, because I found after a couple of years that I would just look at a bar and know exactly what the weight is. And I don't know if that comes with experience, but because in the first couple of years I wasn't like that. Or they're just lying, and they do know. So that's one thing, is that when you're bad, you know you're bad, and you can't get away from it. Other than that, in terms of the negative side of weightlifting, I guess injuries, but that's the same with any sport, so I'm not going to go into that. When you're injured, it's the worst thing in the world mentally. When something, the competition doesn't go well, it's the worst thing in the world. Again, any sport. Training sessions are long. Again, in my opinion, any sport, if you're doing it right, if you're doing it to the same intensity. So no, the only thing that's an issue with me is the perfectionism side of it. And that would probably be an issue with anything. I guess if you take Johnny Wilkinson, for example, kicking a rugby ball through a post, would be a similar example, where they think it's a little bit more hard on the body, I guess. Not maybe than getting tackled by 100 kilo guys, but in terms of just goal kicking. But I love weightlifting for that same reason, that the environment is controlled. You can chase perfection, and there's more controls. So it's not like rugby where you're never going to have a perfect game because of all the different variables. Whereas with weightlifting, obviously it's controlled. It's generally the same kind of bar, the same plates, etc. So I think that's been really useful for me. The routine of it has been really useful. I cannot understand when people say, oh, I need a different program, I can't keep doing snatch and clean jerk. It's like, well, why are you doing weightlifting then? Like, it's literally... And people like that, obviously, I don't get on with. I've actually not met many people like that, but I've heard stories. That's the best thing for me. So if my program every day was a snatch and clean jerk, I think I'd love it. Now, throwing in, the odd variation like powers and hangs and doubles, etc., is fantastic. That's been really useful for me in terms of I prefer doing a sport, and I think most of us do who do weightlifting. Just like having one or two just things to focus on, and you can really specify on that and get kind of specific with the training. So that's been really good. The body image thing is probably the thing I thank weightlifting the most for, Obviously it's done so much in terms of my shoulder. I'm going at some point to do some projects around the Erbs palsy and how far I've kind of got with it. I'm going to try and speak to some people who have Erbs palsy, or I'm actually going to look into ringing up the specialist hospital in Leeds, or the specialist clinic, and just talking to them and just seeing if they want to do anything, or yeah, I think that's been incredible for me, because that's really shown me how much you know, you're capable of, how much I guess anyone's capable of if they commit for long enough consistently. That's been fantastic, but it's also given me some of the most joyous memories of my life. I don't think, obviously I'm not like retiring, but or you know, I'm not done there, but you know, some of the competitions that I've done well at, just some of the moments, some of the little holidays we've had, some of the just little stupid moments like sitting in the crowd, just having a laugh with like Burbs or Patrick or I can remember both of them, both at Crystal Palace, both on different days, just having a laugh just in general and just being happy, and those moments being fantastic, you know, things like that have been really good for me. Not necessarily, like, I wouldn't even count things like winning the British, for example, or winning the British Open. Obviously I was unbelievably happy, you know, but it's more kind of the moments afterwards when you're like, I guess, peeing in a cup, you know, or you know, or thing, not straight afterwards, but a little bit afterwards, when you're celebrating with your family and your friends, and kind of rejoicing, and just everyone's really happy. So those are some of the best things of weightlifting. Obviously the wins have been fantastic, and I want a lot more, and I want more numbers. Also, I love numbers. Now I think that's not an OCD thing necessarily. It can be for some people. That's a personality thing. I just quite like objective, and I quite like numbers. So something like weightlifting is really useful for me, because I can track everything. Like, people have seen my like PB list, and it's so varied. There's so many different complexes and numbers, and it's fantastic. But that's another thing I actually like, and it kind of allows me to do that without being seen as weird. Like, it, you know what I mean? Like, kind of, I couldn't do that for any other sport really, except powerlifting kind of thing. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, that's it for that, and I'll quickly do. I'm starting to do 2 at a time now, but these are just, the second one's quite easy. And the question was, how do you deal with depression after a really bad competition? And my answer would be, wallow in your depression for a bit, actually, and just take in the feelings and understand the feelings, and sit with them for a little bit. Don't try and change it straight away, because it is a natural kind of grieving process, essentially. I should take this plaster out. Try to get back into some sort of training as soon as possible. I think the worst thing you can do is sometimes after a bad one is to sit around for a week kind of thing. I think that's probably the worst thing you can do. Switch up training a little bit, chat to your coach, set new goals, and try to find something that you can be passionate about again, and something that gets you excited. For me, that would be, say I did really bad at the last competition, it would be, all right, let's work towards a new competition, or a new front squat PB, or something big that gets you really excited again. And just also understand that sometimes you will have bad competitions, sometimes you'll have good competitions. Sometimes the bad competitions you can't even really control, like everything goes really well. So obviously when I bombed out at British Students a good few years back now, some of the best training I've had into a comp was for that comp. And then I bombed out on snatch, subluxed my shoulder on the first snatch, and I just couldn't control it, and that's just the way it is. But that would be my advice for that, is try to find something, get back to training as soon as possible, try and get back to your routine as soon as possible, and try and find something to be really excited for again in training, even if it means switching up a little bit. Like for weightlifters, maybe it's, I'm going to find my max, I'm going to work towards a max deadlift or something like that. But yeah, hopefully it's been useful. Any questions, let me know. Comment, or don't contact me, just comment. Have a good Sunday.